Greetings and welcome back. This is Total OS Today, total technology for beginners and beyond. I am your host, Carmine, or as the UPS driver once said, package for Carmini. That is a true story. Anyway, welcome back. If you are new, why not subscribe, like, and share if you find any of this discussion useful. Is Chrome OS desktop Linux? Well, as the saying goes, is the Pope Catholic? From MakeUseOf.com, is Chrome OS desktop Linux? 8 points to consider since I use Windows, Chrome OS on Chromebooks, Chrome OS Flex, different types of Linux distributions. I will try to be fair about all this. So let's take a look at the article from last year. How did I miss this? All right, Chrome OS is built on top of Gentoo and uses the Linux kernel under the hood, but can you really call Chrome OS desktop Linux or a distribution? Well, the Chrome OS that's built into Chromebooks is not really a distribution, but Chrome OS Flex you can download, install, and share as much as you'd like. Do Chromebooks run Linux? This isn't the way they're advertised for sure. It would be kind of weird to walk into a computer store or Best Buy and on the Chromebook model you're searching for, on the box it says, hey, thank you for buying Linux. That would be kind of weird. All right, so Google does not tell you Chromebooks come with Linux. They run Chrome OS, Google's take on what a desktop operating system can be. But despite how different Chrome OS looks and feels, Chrome OS is based on Linux. All right, 8 points to consider. All right, Linux technically isn't an operating system, it's a kernel. All right, to simplify all this, I often like to describe this as think of a bridge. On the left side of the bridge, you have your hardware. On the right side of the bridge, you have your software. You need something to connect that. What is the bridge that connects hardware and software? Let's call that Linux. So Linux in and of itself is not really an operating system. It's a kernel, a bridge that connects hardware and software. Okay, so all the software you see on the screen that is in Linux has simply become shorthand for operating systems, also known as distributions or distro for short, using the Linux kernel. Chrome OS uses the Linux kernel, so by this standard, Chrome OS is desktop Linux. Okay. Chrome OS is based on Gentoo. Chrome OS doesn't just use the Linux kernel, it is actually built on top of the Gentoo Linux distribution. Yes. This means that much of what goes on behind the scenes isn't code developed by Google, it comes from the broader Linux community. Okay, you can install some Linux apps on some Chromebooks you can, such as VLC, GIMP, through the virtualization environment option on some Chromebooks, and this is called Crostini. I know it's like something you sprinkle on your pasta, but I suspect most Windows users, most people of the shopping masses probably won't care for this. It's nice to have if you like to tinker, but yeah, this is probably something that most buyers don't care for. But yes, you can install some Linux apps. All right, so Chrome OS and GNU are largely incompatible. So far, it seems pretty obvious that Chrome OS is Linux. Yeah. Well, when you see Linux discussed online, have you noticed how it's often written as GNU Linux? That's because many of the components that currently go into providing a fully functional Linux desktop actually existed before the Linux kernel did. They came about as part of the GNU project. So much of what we associate Linux has more to do with GNU than with Linux. Chrome OS is based on Linux, but it doesn't share in the apps, values, or culture of the GNU project. It's Linux, sure, but it's not really GNU. I will definitely not argue with that, but keep in mind that most users, I'm guessing, who buy a Chromebook probably maybe got tired of Windows. They're looking for something with less maintenance, something that's more affordable, faster, easy to maintain, and runs as perfectly as possible. That's my guess. So is Chrome OS free and open source? Well, Chrome OS Flex you are openly allowed to freely download and share. Not really the Chrome OS, which is built in the Chromebook. All right, so much of what goes into Chrome OS is free software, as it's available for anyone to download in the form of Chromium OS. Google adds proprietary bits to the browser, and the majority of apps and extensions you install are also closed source. Okay. Number 6, you can't swap your desktop environment. That is true. If you look at my Linux Mint here, I've customized this somewhat with this nice Cairo dock. You can add other things to the desktop if you want. I can add multiple docks and don't want to do that. But yes, if you like to tinker, Chromebooks and Chrome OS Flex is definitely not for you. Just keep in mind, the more you tinker, the more something can possibly break on your Linux desktop. So Chromebooks are not designed to really tinker with. All right, so you can't choose an alternate interface to the one Google provides. You can't swap out the audio display driver. You can pick your apps stored or preferred package format, though. In short, while most Linux desktops give you freedom to configure your PC however you want, Chrome OS doesn't. Neither does Chrome OS Flex. I don't have a problem with that, and I'm assuming most Chromebook buyers don't really care, just as long as it works without having to fix anything, such as going into the terminal in a quote-unquote standard Linux distribution. Chrome apps are not Linux apps. There are many desktop environments in the Linux ecosystem. They look and function in wildly different ways, but as different as GNOME and KDE Plasma may be from one another, you can run an app designated for one inside the other. Okay, so this isn't the case for Chrome OS. To be fair, software generally isn't designed for Chrome OS. It's either an Android app or a Chrome extension. Okay. Once again, I suspect most Windows users coming to a Chromebook won't care about all this. That's my guess. So is Chrome OS desktop Linux? Chrome OS is Linux, sure, but is it GNU Linux? No, not really. It's funny that he says here, ultimately there is no simple answer to this question. I think it's answered beautifully. Chromebooks are based on Gentoo Linux, as it states here. It's based on the Linux kernel. It's based on that bridge that connects software to the hardware. Is it as fancy as a standard Linux desktop, which you see here? No. Are most buyers going to care about all this fanciness? I suspect not. So what do you guys think about all this? Chromebooks are terrific. I have 2 of them. I've never had anything break. They just work. They are virtually maintenance-free. And that's why I recommend you should at least try a Chromebook. Thank you for watching. Hope to catch you on the next one. Arrivederci.